Okay, today we're going to look at multiplying binomials, and your target for today is multiply two binomials or multiply a binomial by a trinomial. So if you're writing out your Cornell notes, your essential question will be, how do you multiply two binomials, and so on. So you might want to take some time to get your notes set up in Cornell note fashion and hit the pause button, resume when you're ready. Now within your Cornell notes, if you choose to do it that way, divide your paper into 4 different sections. I'm going to give you 4 examples, 3 different methods for multiplying binomials, and then 1 final example which will demonstrate how to multiply a binomial by a trinomial. Remember that a binomial is a two-termed expression. One term, two term. And you remember that because a binomial, like a bicycle, has 2 wheels. A binomial has 2 terms. A trinomial, like a tricycle, is a 3-termed expression. And then anything above a trinomial just becomes called a polynomial, or many terms. Okay. So here in the first box on your paper in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to do method 1, and that's to use the distributive property. So write out this example, 3x plus 4, that's the first binomial, times 2x minus 6, that's the second binomial. And the way it works is, if you use the distributive property, you're going to distribute the terms in the first binomial one at a time. So you do that by, now I've got a heart up here, but you can just use your finger or your pencil. You do that by pretending that the second part of the first binomial isn't there, and you're going to distribute the 3x times each term inside that second binomial. And if I do that, 3x times 2x is 6x squared, and 3x times minus 6 is minus 18x. Then you're going to put your finger over the first term, and you're going to distribute the second term. So 4 times 2x is 8x, so it's plus 8x. And 4 times minus 6 is minus 24. So you're multiplying two binomials by distributing the first term and then distributing the second term. Once you've done that, you have a polynomial, but you'll notice that some of the terms are like terms. In fact, the middle 2 terms both have just an x. So if I combine negative 18x and positive 8x, I get negative 10x. My answer is 6x squared minus 10x minus 24. In general, whenever you multiply two binomials, you're going to end up with a trinomial as your answer, 3 terms. Okay, next method you can put in the next box to the right. It's called the table method. And when you use the table method, you're going to make a tic-tac-toe table. So copy down example 2 and make this tic-tac-toe. Hit the pause button and then resume when you're ready. Okay, so to use the table method, what you're going to do is write each binomial in the first column and the second column. So I'm going to write it like this: x minus 7 and 3x minus 5. Now if you look in your book, they do it slightly different. I'm setting you up to do this same method in a later lesson. So if you do it this way, it will really help you later on when we start to factor. So here's how you get your answer. Multiply straight across. X times 3x is 3x squared. And multiply straight across. Negative 7 times negative 5 is positive 35. Now this next part is kind of tricky, but it will make sense the more you practice it. if I cross multiply, I get 3x times negative 7, and I write my answer down below, negative 21x. And then I cross multiply, x times negative 5 is negative 5x. And then I'm going to take those two terms and add them together. Negative 21x and negative 5x is negative 26x. I know this is really strange the first time you see it, but with practice you'll get it. The last column is your answer. 3x squared plus 35 minus 26x. Now that's an okay answer, but really you want to write it in standard form, so I'm going to rewrite it. 3x squared. The next term should be minus 26x. And the last term is 35. That's method 2. That's the table method. Okay, third box should be the bottom left box. This method is called the FOIL method. And FOIL stands for first, and you should write this out, outside, inside, last. That's first, outside, inside, last, which is where the FOIL comes from. Okay, so to use the FOIL method, you're going to multiply the first terms. So the first terms are 4x and 2x. So I'm just going to multiply the first term in the first binomial times the first term in the second binomial. And I draw in the arrows to help keep track of all the things that I've multiplied. And then I write it out, 4x times 2x. Then you're going to add to that the outside terms. The outside terms are the ones on the outside of the expression, 4x and 3. So I write out 4x times 3. Then you're going to multiply the inside terms. Well, the inside terms, the inside terms are the 6 and the 2x. That's negative 6x and positive 2x. Then you're going to multiply the last term. That would be the 6 and the 3. So the FOIL method looks a little more complicated, but if you draw the arrows, it's just like distributing. So if I multiply 4x times 2x, I get 8x squared. And if I multiply 4x times 3, I get positive 12x. And negative 6x times, that really should just be 6. Negative 6 times 2x is minus 12x. And negative 6x times 3, and that should also just be negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Then you look at your expression and you want to add any like terms. And what you see in the middle is a positive 12x and a negative 12x. 12x minus 12x is 0, so those cancel out, and you're left with 8x squared minus 18. And that's the FOIL method. Now if this seems complicated, and it's probably complicated by the fact that I messed up on these letters, but if it seems complicated, this is just an acronym to help you remember what you have to multiply, and to help you remember that in two binomials you're going to multiply 4 different things. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if nothing else, the word FOIL should help you remember that you're going to have 4 multiplication problems. Again, if it's too complicated, you can stick with one of the other 2 methods. Okay, last example in the last box is how you multiply a trinomial by a binomial. And the best way to do that is to use the distributive property method. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make myself a little box, and I'm going to use that to help cover up numbers. So I'm going to distribute the 2x first, so I'll cover up the negative 6. You can do this with your finger or your pencil, but I'm going to distribute 2x 3 times because I'm going to multiply it by each term in the binomial. So 2x times 3x squared minus 2x times 5x plus 2x times 7. All I've done is multiply the 2x, the first term of the binomial, by each term of the trinomial. Then I'm going to move my little yellow box, and I'm going to multiply the negative 6 by each term in the trinomial, so 6 more, or 3 more times for a total of 6. That's negative 6 times 3x squared, and negative 6 times negative 5x, and one last one, negative 6 times 7. So you have a whole bunch of terms to multiply together, but what you're going to find is a whole bunch of terms will end up being like terms, and it will make your final answer a little neater. So here we go. 2x times 3x squared. 2 times 3 is 6. X times x squared is x to the third. Next term is minus 2 times 2 is 10. Excuse me, 2 times 5 is 10. X times x is x squared. Plus 2x times 7 is 14x. Minus 6 times 3x squared is 18x squared. The next one, negative 6 times negative 5 is positive 30x. And the last term is minus 42. Almost done. One more step, and that is to add like terms. What you should notice in the middle is negative 10x squared and negative 18x squared makes negative 28x squared. 14x and 30x makes 44x. And then the last term, minus 42, is the only constant, and the first term, 6x to the third, is the only x to the third term. So that's your answer. Okay, so to review, you have 3 methods: distributive property, the table method, and the method called FOIL. All ways that you can multiply 2 binomials. When you multiply a binomial by a trinomial, you're going to use the distributive property, and you get a long list of terms, but they usually add up to be a nice, neat answer in the end. Okay, go back through your notes, double check that you've written everything down, make sure you have any question marks next to areas that you got confused, and come to class ready to ask questions. Your assignment, if you choose to get started early, is Lesson 8.3, 8 through 28 even, and 36 through 41. Good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow.